We're deep in the African bush, a long way from anywhere, and 6,000 miles from Brexit. But the Brit millionaire who bankrolled Brexit attributes some of his wealth to holes in the ground not far from here. Ever since the De Beer brothers, Cecil Rhodes and other Victorian fortune hunters flocked to Kimberley's diamond fields with dreams of untold riches, the land between the Vaal and Orange rivers has seen plenty of Wild West-style bar brawls and lawsuits. Arron Banks, latter-day diamond geezer and self-declared bad boy of Brexit, is no exception, and his quarrel started right here at this all but exhausted old mine he bought into. And in Africa, a dead animal draped over a sign smacks of bad juju. Channel 4 News has been down this road before. Last summer, we came here to investigate whether these South African diamond mines were the source of the £8 million Arron Banks spent on Brexit.
This Kimberley mine.
And you own it?
Yeah, we own 7 mines there. Not all of them, but there's quite a cluster. And,
what's that worth?
Quite a lot.
But court documents we found show that Banks owned a half share in 3 mines. And in reality, Banks's diamonds were thin on the ground. We also revealed claims by his ex-business partner that Banks had travelled to Russia to raise cash for the mines, and that money he raised from other investors was instead spent on Brexit. Arron Banks has strenuously denied these allegations. But Britain's National Crime Agency is investigating where his Brexit cash really came from. Now we're back in South Africa with fresh evidence about how the battle over these mines became a dirty war. The question: did Arron Banks try to bribe one of South Africa's most senior policemen, a general in an elite investigative unit called the Hawks, in order to discredit and silence his ex-business partner and put him behind bars? Channel 4 News has obtained a cache of new documents which show that Arron Banks invited the chief of the Hawks here in Northern Cape Province to Britain. He asked his associates to arrange his flights and even offered to help him obtain a UK visa. Does that have a whiff of corruption about it?
Without doubt. It is an act of corruption, absolutely.
The saga starts here in Kimberley, where Hawks HQ sits right next to what they call the Big Hole, De Beer's vast, now abandoned old diamond mine. Arron Banks had fallen out with his ex-business partner, Chris Kimber. Banks wanted Kimber investigated by the police. The head of the Hawks here was General K.D. Galawe. And how did Galawe meet Banks? Well, this ex-Hawks chief introduced them.
The long and short of the story is, well, according to him, is that Kimber had done him in and that he wanted Kimber to be investigated. I explained to him that I'd left the police and the Hawks, and that what I can do for him is to introduce him to the head of the Hawks in the Northern Cape, General Galawe, which I indeed did. Galawe incidentally happened to be in Pretoria at the same time, and he came over to the hotel, introduced him, and my understanding was that Galawe was then going to take this investigation forward.
And so began a potentially fruitful relationship between the complainant and the supposedly independent police chief, facilitated by Cobus Coetzee, an ex-cop and Banks's right-hand man in South Africa. We've learned there were multiple meetings between them and that numerous business deals were discussed. By September 2017, they were discussing the trip to the UK for the General and 2 of his friends, with Coetzee pressing Banks's assistant to arrange flights and write letters supporting visa applications. The line between complainant and police chief already somewhat blurred.
I wonder if you have an email contact for General Galawe so I can write this letter and arrange his flights for November, please.
Coetzee replies,
I've copied the General in on both his emails.
Days later, he follows up and copies in Arron Banks.
Have you managed to make contact and arrange the invite letter and flights?
Banks's office replies,
Yes, just waiting for General to send me the passport details. Then I shall book the flights.
all this as Banks was still pushing the police to look into his former business partner's activities. Shortly after the London trip was discussed, Banks signed this official request for a criminal investigation, and that is exactly what happened. Within weeks, the Hawks had formally launched one. The email trail led us to Johannesburg, where we tracked down one of the General's old friends whose name had cropped up in discussions about that planned trip to Britain. JJ Njeke was General Galawe's business advisor and was also the man who'd witnessed the Banks affidavit. He's a business tycoon with a long string of directorships and was the former CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. This is the affidavit which
Yes.
you signed on the 21st of October
Yes.
2017.
Yes.
Could you confirm that that is your signature and that those are your signatures on
Yes.
every page, your initials on every page?
Yes.
He tells me he knows the General from the Eastern Cape, where they both grew up, and that Galawe introduced him to Banks in Johannesburg. What is your understanding of who organised that affidavit?
Look, this affidavit, as far as I know, was organized by General Galawe.
And what do you know of General Galawe's relationship with Arron Banks?
At some stage, he had been talking to Mr. Banks about buying an interest in his call center business in South Africa. Also assisting him in other business ventures, including an interest in cement and things like that. But I don't know whether they actually made any investments together.
So, Banks and the General discussed money-making schemes in his call centre, which employs hundreds of people. This is Silver Lakes, an exclusive residential district with its own private game reserve. This residence belongs to a millionaire who owns some diamond mines, one Arron Fraser Banks. Had he offered General Galawe a stake in his call centre, what some might perceive as a bribe, in return for that Hawks investigation? What other deals had been on the table? It was time to call the General. Good morning, General Galawe. This is Jonathan Miller from Channel 4 News. How are you?
I'm very good, sir.
He told me he'd visited the call centre, twice in fact, once with Arron Banks, who'd had ambitious plans to double the workforce. But General Galawe decided it wasn't for him. Instead, he had an investment proposal for Banks.
I am due to leave at the age of 60.
Yes.
And then out of that, there was a discussion to say, what do you plan to do? And I told them that my line of interest in business is more to property development.
You told Cobus Coetzee that, ultimately what you were looking for was a long-term sort of investment as a sort of retirement plan, but that, to be honest, your interests were more in property development than they were in the sort of proposal that he was putting to you.
Yes, that was, I said I do not know. This is a foreign line that they were showing me. It's not something that I know.
We've now discovered 2 property schemes the General wanted Banks to invest in. When built, they'd be worth nearly £5 billion. They'd include shopping malls, apartment complexes, even a convention centre. These documents, prepared for the General and addressed to Banks, refer to him as a potential strategic stakeholder and propose that he sinks more than £1 million into the 2 schemes. The developer told us the General wanted Banks to invest in the scheme, and that if he did, Galawe stood to profit. The planned trip to London, he said, was to make the investment pitch. But that's not how General Galawe told it.
Well, the challenge with property development is to get investors. He told me that he's not interested in property development, but he knows about 6 other people in that area.
One of these potential investors, the General told me, had expressed interest.
And that is what prompted now the interest of me going to the UK. It was about now me meeting this particular guy caused me to talk to. Arron volunteered to facilitate application of the visa. It is not correct to say that trip was going to be paid for by Arron.
Okay. Who's going to pay for it?
Sorry?
This was going to be paid for privately by you?
Yes, they're going to be paid by us privately.
Okay.
He told me that in the end, the planned trip had never actually gone ahead.
Why didn't the trip happen?
No, the only reason why it didn't happen is that on the date that we had agreed to travel, JJ happened to have a clash of the schedule.
In December 2017, just weeks after all these discussions and meetings, the Hawks opened their criminal investigation into Banks's ex-business partner. Inducements for favours? Now that would be illegal under both South African and British law.
Under the Code of Conduct for government employees, they're not allowed to accept any gifts totalling more than 350 rand a year. That's £20. Britain's Bribery Act, meanwhile, makes it an offence to approach any foreign public official with either an offer, a promise, or a gift. Anyone found guilty of doing that faces up to 10 years in jail.
The law is clear. Seeking to influence an official to gain a business advantage is a criminal offence. This man was one of South Africa's most senior civil servants. He ran Home Affairs. Now he heads Corruption Watch. I briefed him on the offers Banks appears to have made.
Do you believe that his doing this constituted an act of corruption?
Without doubt, it is an act of corruption, absolutely. I'm very certain that if these facts were established, this could be punishable. It is an offense. This person who is being investigated is the former business partner of Arron Banks with whom they've fallen out. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Life in Kimberley's lost a lot of its sparkle. Today, illegal miners sift through the dregs of long-dead mines, hoping for the glint of an errant stone. There's a chasm between this hand-to-mouth existence and the diamond-studded world of Arron Banks.
I'm not rich. Starting to get something on the table, that's all.
It's an easy place to be corrupt, South Africa. Venality runs in the veins of this nation, but corruption needs corruptors.
My experience, corruption in the South African police service is rife. I would say it's almost out of control. If I'm going to be the head of the Hawks in a province, I really think it might be a little bit inappropriate to go into business ventures with one of your complainants.
Tonight, Arron Banks accused this programme of engaging in a smear campaign. He told us that while General Galawe had opened the case, it had been transferred to head office under a new investigating officer. 3 hours later, he changed his story and said Galawe had never been involved. The investigation, he said, had been handled from the start by Hawks HQ in Pretoria. Arron Banks also denied having had any business dealings with General Galawe. He insisted that his complaint against his former business partner was still being investigated. The police told us otherwise. General Galawe told us his office had never been involved in any investigation to do with Arron Banks or his ex-business partner. He denied any wrongdoing, breaking the law or breaching any code of conduct.